Welcome back to the Direct Response Playbook. Travis Ketchum, founder of Campaign Refinery. But as much as we send email and we see a lot of different types of email, I had to bring David Cartolano on for this one because we are talking about newsletters, and he is the newsletter dude as far as scaling, exiting, optimizing newsletters. So, David, I got a big question for you related to newsletters. You ready
Let's do
for
it,
it?
Travis. Yeah. What is it?
How long should your newsletter be?
Oh, this is a loaded question. So I have two rules of thumb when it comes to writing a newsletter. And this is for any industry. I don't care if it's a local newsletter. I don't care if it's a newsletter for a gun magazine. I don't care if it's a newsletter for survival, prayerfulness, financial. The rule is there's no such thing as a newsletter too long, only too boring. However, we can assume that the longer things get, the more likely they are to become boring. So keep it as short as you possibly can. Now, David, that's not a very clear answer. Well, let's dive into the nuance of that. So if you have a newsletter where, you are a life coach, right? Let's put it like that. You help mothers get over their third divorce, right? These are people that really need your help. All right. So it's their third divorce, and you're the kind of person that whenever you have an event on Facebook or like a live stream and you're getting people commenting and staying toward the very end, it means that you have something to say that people are willing to listen to for a very long time. So for you, you might be able to have a longer newsletter. Why? Because of the people that you follow. Because the people that you attract, because your message resonates very well with them. And they aren't just there for the content. They're there because they like to hear you speak, because you relate to them. So they're willing to stick around for a longer time. Now, for most of us listening, that's not us. All right. So for me, when I'm doing, and I'm going to pull up an example of one of the newsletters I have for a local town. That is a newsletter that is meant to be consumed in 5 minutes or less. So it's obviously not very long. It's, hey, here's what it is. Here's what happened. Cool story. Bursts of dopamine, little decluttering tip, because I know my audience and I know they love to declutter, and that's it. It's supposed to be fast. It's supposed to be succinct, because I'm not trying to establish a huge personal brand here. This is a local newsletter that talks about 5 stories that happened. Done.
Sounds
and they're going to get one
snackable to me.
tomorrow. and that's exactly it. So yeah, so a newsletter length, I mean, it's all about what does the reader want, and that's hard, because when we're sending stuff out there, we are talking to people, but we just can't read their faces as they're reading the email. That's impossible unless we hack into their phones and computers, which is highly illegal, but it would give us a lot of great data. So Travis, that's my take on newsletter length. From what you guys have seen over at Campaign Refinery, what do you usually see your users do with their newsletters that get higher engagement rates?
Yeah, we tend to see sort of a clustering happen. There's usually not a lot that's in the middle length. And first of all, I think we should try to give people some actual word counts to give them some rough ideas of what is short, what is medium, what is long, right? And so for those of you who want to see that, we actually have a complete blog post with exact descriptions and illustrations of each of these. But essentially, to me, short is a couple hundred words. Medium is between a couple hundred and, somewhere under 1,000. And long is 1,000 plus, generally speaking. It's sort of like rough guidelines, right? It can vary by industry, as you mentioned, is that word a title, a subtitle, a heading, can people scan it easily? There's things that can make a long email feel short, and there's things that can make a short email feel long. But as far as the engagement rates, we see a vast majority of the high engagement stuff is actually really short, because it also tends to lean on curiosity, blind driven sort of mentality about newsletters. And so that's sort of the direct response school of thought, right? Like the subject line sells the open, the body sells the click. And so a lot of times the highest engaging emails are these short, blind curiosity. Ooh, it got me to open. Ooh, it got me to click. And now I'm off to a longer form sales page. or a different experience somewhere outside of the inbox. And
Yeah.
then then you see a big bridge, big gap, and then you see people that have really passionate followings. Like they've built a little micro celebrity status, right? They might not even have a huge following, but like almost cult-like devotion to their content, either because they are a true influencer, which I don't even like that word, but like a true authority on a particular fringe topic. And so the people that are on their list are really just kind of hanging on their every word to learn more and to get better about a very specific niche thing that they can't get anywhere else. In fact, they may be paying for the privilege to get that email, which again changes that context. And so those can be quite lengthy. I always joke, it's War and Peace, right? Steve Jobs made the old joke when they introduced the keyboard on the first iPad. He's like, you got to write War and Peace. Here's your way to do it. But those lengthy ones sometimes can actually be devoured multiple times. They can be flagged as important. They can be replied to at a higher rate. But there's a big jump between that curiosity-driven approach and the like sort of micro niche celebrity and authority. That's been my experience. Have you seen something similar?
Yeah, extremely similar. And I think you bring up a great point about the middle is practically non-existent. Either make it short and sweet or be a micro celebrity where people really do hang on to your every word. And a huge mistake I see when people are writing newsletters is they think they're writing a blog. Or worse, they're writing a blog article in a newsletter to point people to a blog, right? So they'll write a blog article and then they'll say, okay, in my newsletter, I'm going to talk about this blog article because I want people to read it. And what they do is they effectively summarize the entire blog in the newsletter itself and make a War and Peace and then put a link. And they say, click the link right here to check out the blog. I'm like, you just showed them the blog. And that's, I actually, side note, I tripled someone's click-through rates because, and this was a while back, simply because she did this. And she would summarize the entire thing and then gave them the thing. So if you have a newsletter that's pointing to an external piece of content, let it point to the content. Keep it short and sweet so they can enjoy the meal that you're offering them after the click. So yeah, Travis, like I'm totally in agreement. The middle itself is a dangerous place to be. Okay, so use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever and say, hey, how can I cut this email down 200, 300 words? If that's something that you struggle with doing, just ask AI to help you out. It will give you suggestions. It will help. And it might do it faster and with less bias than a coworker might. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. So when I try to think about how to write a short email, and you can tell me, you write more copy than I do probably, but I think about short emails in essentially one of two contexts. There's either the completely blind curiosity angle, which is like you click on it just because you have to know what the heck they're even trying to talk about, right? And that can be very effective. That's actually one of the strategies that GymLaunch used when we were warming them up, and they ended up generating millions of dollars in revenue in the first year from a list that they thought was, quote, dead. Right? So that is totally effective. But the other sort of approach is, I call it the Black & Decker approach, because Black & Decker's old CEO used to say, we don't sell drills, we sell holes. And so you're telling them, here's all the benefits that you're going to have when you read this thing externally, right? So you are telling them what it's about, but you're telling them what it's about in a way of what they're going to learn from it. But to actually then close that information gap, they then have to click and read the full delivery, the full actual thing. And so both of those can work, but they are coming from very different contexts, yet they end up being about the same length, I find. Do you find that?
Yeah.
About the same length?
I have found I use the Black & Decker approach 90% more. And also in a newsletter, when you are already giving people content, you're not really going to send out an edition with no content, because then they're going to go, that's an ad. And immediately that's going to ding things, right? So the surprise, the one sentence email with a single link, when I have used that for non-newsletter clients way back, those work really well. But the caveat is you can only do it couple of times. Do not do this every week because your audience will catch on. They will get sick of it. All right. People aren't stupid. Once you use the same good old marketing trick, they're going to know. Right. So
unless your subscribers are, at least you're running the list for TMZ, right? And they're like conditioned to clicking. I mean, let's be honest, like you can never say never, right? Like there is an audience that would probably gobble that up if every single email was about that. Like, Kanye did what this week? Like that would probably work, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you're talking about health coaching or you're talking, that's not gonna be necessarily the right strategy, right? You're probably gonna have a actionable thing with clear steps that you're trying to direct people to that will get them closer to their outcome. And you probably want to tease that in the email about, if you have chronic back pain, if you can't sleep at night, yada, 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 benefit. That's exactly what I'm going to help you solve when you read today's post.
Yeah, perfect.
Much more impactful for the average person and the average business, I would say.
Yeah. I call it I might as well say it. I call it this like the 10-second toilet rule, right? People are sitting on the toilet, scrolling through their phone, and they might be going through their email. You got 10 seconds, all right? Say what you got to say, and then and then leave because you're not the only person in their inbox, and they have a kid crying outside the bathroom, or they know they have to get back to their desk because they're working. Life happens. We don't have time to write novels and emails. So, and back to the overarching rule of thumb is the shorter the better. People are not sitting down, crossing their legs with a pipe and a monocle, looking at every single email as much as we would like them to. So for me, get it short, keep it valuable, and move on to the next. So
the pipe and the monocle might be a thing for the survival list. You never know, but
it could inside their bunker.
Anyway, I only kid. I kid. Please do not send me hate mail about that. It's a good joke, but yeah. In general, I think you're right. So you're trying to figure out length. Try to avoid no man's land in the middle. That's just a recap. Be interesting and feature, outcome driven as a tease to get them to the full meal, or if you're really aiming for that authoritarian sort of point of view, it better be a damn good email that's going to be long and draw them in and be able to show them authority and expertise in a way that is useful, not just flexing or bragging, right? That is an interesting, compelling story and make them feel seen. The more you can identify with them, the better. The joke I always love is from Ron White. He said he was watching a televangelist. I'm sure it's all fake and a joke. And the televangelist goes, "Are you naked on a beanbag chair eating Cheetos?" You're like, "Man, this guy's good," So if you're gonna write a long email, make them feel seen in a way that feels that personal, right? That makes it like, wow, this is written for me. I am the person this was designed for. Or go with the short benefit driven and send them to the real thing. So on that note, do you have anything else, David?
No, you nailed it. I'm glad I have the pipe and monocle analogy because I'm going to use that now. That's the first time I've ever said that.
Yeah, good. You don't want to use the beanbag and the Cheetos. All right, I'll let you stick with
No, that's yours. I'll let you have that.
Fair. All right. Well, if you want to know more about newsletters specifically, David is the dude for newsletters in terms of scaling, exiting, and turning it into a real business. So definitely check him out. wealthyinbox.news is the place to connect and sign up for the newsletter about newsletter M&A. And if you are considering platforms to power really elite performing emails, Campaign Refinery is our jam. We are the infrastructure, the technology that a lot of high performance emails run on. So if you want to check out what that's all about, you can hit the link. And if you want to read a full blog post that you can pass along to your boss who's telling you to write longer emails and say, no, sir, read the blog post, there's a link for that down below. Yeah, so if you liked what you heard today, give us a thumbs up. If you want to learn more about email and digital marketing in general, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Travis. David.
I'm David.
Talk to you next time.